G'day everyone, it's Warren here from NQ Explorers on another adventure, metal detecting trip. Today we're going out to a site that we reconned a week ago just by vehicle that we researched. It's an old one-room schoolhouse that was established around the turn of the 20th century, around 1902 or 3, and like a lot of the one-room schools was closed in the 60s because after World War II, well, there were buses to take kids to more central locations, and parents had cars, but mostly the kids went by bus. Prior to that, in the 1800s, of course, the one-room schools were every 10 miles or so because you had to service the kids of the district with education, and they couldn't travel far to get to a school that was, many miles distant, given the state of the roads, and all they had was a horse and cart. So I'll tell you a bit more about the site as we get closer, but going to be a nice day out today. It's a bit overcast. It's going to be up near 36 or 37 degrees. It's going to be pretty warm, and I am going to have issues with the grass out there. I know that because there's been a lot of rain, but that's okay. That's what we deal with here in northern Australia in the wet season. So I'll be back shortly when we get nearer to the site. We've got about 30k to go to the site. Really interesting, this valley we're in. We've identified 4 old school sites in the valley, all of which are abandoned. The one I'm going to today is I can get access to. The others are just in farm paddocks, so I need to find out property owners and get access. That's not usually a problem. The difficult part's finding out who actually owns it and who to ask. But country people in Australia are just, they're so warm and inviting, and it's always great hospitality. They're always very friendly. They're always happy to oblige generally. You just don't walk into a paddock and start, it's trespassing basically, so we don't do that. But generally, they're just lovely people, and it's great to meet people out in these areas, and they appreciate the gesture of giving them the relics, which may belong to relatives or whatever, but I always make that offer. Most don't take it up, some do. Well, they're always interested to see what you do find on their property, but it's just fascinating that these old places just exist in paddocks now. And of course, the way the schools worked, if you're not from Australia, the education system in Australia is state-based, so the 6 state governments run their own education systems, which, like the railways, has always been an issue because the curriculums, there's no national curriculum as such. They may be now, I don't know. I haven't been to school for a while. But when I was a kid, and then I was in the Air Force, I did 15 years in the Air Force, and moving around, I didn't have children at the time, but defence families with children always had issues moving interstate because the curriculum never lined up. And a child might be in grade 4 in New South Wales and move to WA, and they can only go to grade 3. So they lost years of their education, or months anyway. It was always difficult transitioning from state to state on different curriculums. There was always holes in the education. I don't think that's been sorted out, but like everything else, the states are so different in their attitude to a lot of things, and even laws are different in different states, as you're probably aware. But anyway, the way in the 1800s, you'd get settlers pushing inland and squatters, and they'd, when there's enough little tackers around, they'd push the state government for a school, or they'd petition for a school, and there was obviously a minimum requirement of students that you had to have to establish a school, and then they might establish a provisional school with a small number of students. There might be 10 kids there, but often 5 of them would be from the same family. And a landowner might donate land to the state to build a school, and then the local community raise the money to build it. And then what the school would do is send a teacher to this provisional school, often a young woman. No accommodation provided, they'd have to stay at a homestead. She'd be far from home, and she just came out of teachers' college in Brisbane or Sydney or wherever. It'd be a tough life for a young woman. When the school got to a reasonable size, if it did grow, it'd be declared a state school, and then it'd warrant a male teacher, and then they'd build a house for the male teacher on the site. For some reason the women didn't qualify for housing back in those days, but well, it was tough being a young woman in colonial Australia or anywhere back in the 1800s, I guess. So then once you had, you might get an extra classroom built and they'd throw a library in and a footy oval and a cricket oval. And maybe the school would flourish, but maybe not. The district might, it depended if it was a mining district or a farming district, it waxed and waned in the number of kids that were there. At some point the school might grow to be sustainable and still there today, or it died because there wasn't enough kids and that shut it. So some schools only lasted 10 years, others lasted 50 years. But by and large in the 1960s, that's when a lot of the schools shut because transport was better and they centralised the school system generally into a larger town in the district. So that was the end, the demise of all of these one-room schoolhouses, which often had a residence attached. Anyway, next jibber jabber. I'll concentrate on the driving. We're just going through a bit of a mountainous section here, and I'll let you know when we get closer to the site. Okay, we're just arriving at the site now. Actually, the grass doesn't look too bad. Should be fun. There's not much infrastructure left from this school that I could see from Google Earth, but we'll have a wander around and see what's left. Righto, here we are on the old school site. You can see that way in the distance, so I don't know if you can see it in the video, there's a post. That's the corner of the old school block. There's a tennis court down this, and this is quite sloping here. You won't see that on the video, but in later years they built a tennis court down this country lane a bit further. That's just outside the school property. But it was just a one-room schoolhouse, sort of sat diagonally on this corner. There's a little T-junction here. I think it might be the lunch shed down there. You can see on Google Earth there's a concrete slab, so I'll investigate that in a minute, but we'll get cracking and see what relics we can get from the old place. So today I'm using Garrett Apex. I'm going to run it in multi-frequency because there's just no power lines out here, so there won't be any EMI to interfere with the multi-frequencies. And I've got the little 5x8 Ripper search coil, which is great for getting around the grass. Well, here's my first reportable find, 62. It's the lead top off a old roofing nail for the corrugated iron roof. That one looks like it's never been hammered, so it probably dropped when they were building the old school. Awesome. It's probably the lunch shed. That's what I'd call it, where they had their lunch and little lunch, as they used to call it in Queensland. We used to call it recess in New South Wales. This is the old, you can see the old lunch room or shelter shed for the kids. The school was up slope behind the camera. Like I said, it's quite a sloping site. I guess because this valley, I mean in a big wet you're going to get a flood in here. There's a river, you can see the river down there before up the other side of the valley there perhaps. Anyway, let's go and have a look what I found down here. It's pretty awesome. Well, I think it is. I've dug 2 or 3 pieces of lead. I did buy an old cordial bottle top alloy, but I've just got a coin, I think. Well, I know I have. Yeah, it was deep, and this is a fairly dense clay. It's not easy digging. A little bit of moisture in it, so it's coming out reasonably well. Let's have a look at the find. Okay, down in here, I'm about, there's an ant with an egg. I don't know what he's doing in there. Fell into my crater. 8 inches under the actual ground level, but I've got all this grass to contend with, and I've got a small coil on, so I mean you do go deep in multi on an Apex. I saw a coin flip out. Where is it? There it is, look. Now that was at the bottom of that hole. That is undetermined. Okay, well, there she is. I'll give it a clean. It's a halfpenny, obviously, half a penny. I'll give it a clean and get a date. Right, well, there it is. I am dealing with a heavy clay and I can't actually clean that with a bush clean. I haven't got enough saliva. But I can see that that's a, I'm pretty sure that's a King George VI. He's looking left, so it'll be a kangaroo halfpenny. And what I'll do, I'll clean this and get some still shots when I upload the video. Awesome stuff. Right, let's have a look at the grass situation. Typical of northern Australia, you get a wet and a dry. So in the wet, you get this massive grass growth. We've had inches of rain in the last few weeks, so it's really stimulated the grass. And there's no cattle in this paddock, so there's nothing getting eaten. The thing about grass is that I do like it. It's a challenge. I love a challenge. It's a treasure hunt. I don't know what I'm going to find in here. And two things about grass. One is you've got to have the right machine and the right search coil. Sometimes you need a small coil, like I've got today, to get round the clumps. Other times you can't get round the clumps. You need a very large coil to hover over the clumps and penetrate deeper. So always nice to have a few search coils in the car, which I always do. A couple of machines if you can afford it. And the second thing about grass is the site is never detected out. I mean, most sites never are detected out. Don't give up hope on your research. But when you get this kind of grass and that kind of clumping growth, it varies from year to year. So this year I can get round a couple of little bare patches or lower patches where maybe the cattle have come through or whatever's happened here, or the grass hasn't grown as much. Next year this will be completely different when I come back. So what I love about it is it sort of drags out your the usefulness of a site, because you can keep coming back year after year and it always produces great finds because of the grass. Now if this was a mown park situation, a few detectors come in, well, they're going to get most of the targets pretty quick. But today's strategy, given the grass, is that I'm just going to cherry pick the 70s and 80s if I can hit them. Once I've got those, or I've run out of those options, I'll go back to the 60s and 50s, down where the gold sovereigns will be. These kids probably have pocketfuls of gold sovereigns out here, I'm sure. But anyway, that's my strategy for today. Small coil, dig high numbers initially for a couple of hours, and then I'll see what happens, and then we'll start dropping down into the lower numbers. I'm not running much discrimination, so I'm not actually discriminating the lower numbers. I'm seeing them all the time. Anyway, let's get into it. Well, here's an example of some of the infrastructure. There's not much here. That's an old post foundation from the schoolhouse. This is the rear corner, just there. There's an old fence post with some wire tied around it, but this was definitely a foundation stump for the rear of the school, because it's set at a strange diagonal angle on this block, because it's a corner block, and it would have been a lot higher at the back than the front. So okay, that's the back of the school, and the front would have been at ground level. I'm just about to head back over the landy for a drink of cold water. It's killer humidity today. There's a little bit of breeze on the hill. It's not too bad, but phew, I'm cooking. Okay, just got this. It was only a high 50s. I thought it was a kid's ring at first, but it's clearly a brass fitting off a small hose. You can see the little groove there and the knurled side. Would have been a cool little ring though, but it isn't. Oh, my next find is a little tube of some description, possibly ointment. I don't really know. Definitely wouldn't have been a school nurse or anything like that out here. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I'll attempt to clean it and see if there's any writing on it. I've got a 20 litre jerry can in the back, so I'm not going to run out of water. Well, it's a pretty little spot for a school. I mean, all the spots in this valley where there were little schoolhouses, it's so picturesque, it's just beautiful. Well, I don't think there was a teacher's residence here. The teacher, he or she, must have been boarded at a local homestead and travelled in on horseback or by sulky to the school every morning. Righto, that's the drinks break done. I've got a screaming 82 over here. Actually, it was slightly masked by an alloy target, which was in the 70s. Removed the alloy target, a little bit of old lid or something like that off an old jar, and I got a coin under it. Let's have a look. Here's the target, about 5 inches down. We have a penny. It looks like a little bit of corrosion on the edges. This may be the older than that halfpenny I got. Okay, she's a beauty. She's a Commonwealth penny. Commonwealth of Australia, 1 penny. So this will be King George V. Let's get a date. This is awesome. Well, there it is, 1 year off the big money. It's 1929. If that had only been a year later. That's a beautiful old coin though. I love the design. The simplicity of the design of these old Commonwealth pennies is beautiful. Typically Australian, just states the case. Round disc, 1 penny written on it. No question about what it is. That's a ripper. I'll get some still pics of that too, so you can have a look at that. It has got a little bit of, I thought it had some deterioration on the edges, but maybe not. 1929, right in the middle of the, when the school was in full swing. Okay, we've got a quality target coming up here, probably a coin. So we'll go live with this. I'll just set you up and we'll see the reveal. Okay, the target ID like that could be silver, but it may also be a penny. The pennies ring up pretty high on the conductivity scale because it's such large targets, obviously. Look at this clay. Okay, we won't go too far and we'll just go wide of the target there because I can't cut a plug, obviously. Where is it? It's still over in there. That might have disturbed it. Yes, it did. Look. Can you see that deep in the hole is an opening? What a target! Well, it's lying flat. That's the location where it is. It hasn't moved since I disturbed the ground above it, so that's where it was lying. We've got another halfpenny. Beauty. Clean him up and get a date. Right, it's another kangaroo. King George the VI. That'll be a 40s or 50s coin. Ripper. Well, that there's the lunch shed slab. Just slightly down slope of it, and I just hit a silver coin. It's a little threepence in this grass, so that's a good, that multi-frequency is on the apex with a small coil. I'm hitting this stuff way underground. It's a little Australian sheaf of wheat threepence. I think it's going to be 50% because the target ID was only low 70s. Okay, we'll give it a clean. I think it's 49, so anything post 46 is 50% silver, but that's fine, it's silver. I'll see if I can get a date definitively here, or I'll take a still shot. Yeah, I just got on the handle of the pick there. It's quite tarnished, as you can see, which is typical of the 50% silvers. It's a 49, pretty confident. 49, 50% silver, sheaf of wheat, King George the VI, Aussie sixpence. Some little tackers dropped their lunch money. Although, why would they have lunch money? Pretty sure there's no tuck shop out here, just BYO everything. Well, it's getting near midday, I haven't got a lot of shade out here. You have to go back for another drink. I'm fading. I'll just show you this target first before we go back for another cold drink. This could be another threepence, I don't know. There's the lunch shed slab. This the deal. Look, you can see the deal here. It's not easy detecting, but I enjoy this kind of challenge. This target ID will improve as we get close to the target, so let's get digging and see what's down here. Right, nothing exciting to report. It's roofing nail lead. There's lots of them around the shelter shed. I've been digging them all because 66, 68, that's where those 50% threepences fall in, so you've got to dig them. It's supposed to be rolling thunderstorms through here this afternoon. It's getting near lunchtime now. You can see the clouds are starting to build up, so I'll skedaddle when I hear any noise in the sky. Beautiful spot though. Yeah, there's big storms are coming in from the west this afternoon, so there'll be more rain on the site. It needs a bit of moisture in that clay. Like, we had a rain here, a lot of rain a week ago. Just runs off this clay, I guess. It's got some moisture in it, but boy, it's hard going. Let's say we have another penny coming up here. Every time we go for a drink, we get a coin, which is nice. We've got to drink more. Yeah, solid target ID. A little bit jumpy, so the coin's probably at an angle. We'll go live in there and see what comes out. You can see it from there. Pinpoint it. You can hear this quite deep. We're not anywhere close to it really. Let's pull out these clay chunks and see if we can get closer. Yeah, look how dry that is. I'm pretty amazed. Maybe the storms missed this area last week. In the front of the hole there. Hopefully we can get a clay ball with a coin in it, eh? Okay. Haven't got him yet. Gee, we're getting deep now. Come around here a bit. I'm not sure how the light's going with this filming because the sun's directly overhead, so it's difficult. Let's see what we can reveal by hand. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a penny. Of course, I'm usually wrong 100% of the time. Oh, it's moved. You might have seen something come out then. Yeah, pretty sure it's going to be a penny, he says. What is that? That's an old cordial bottle lid with a hole drilled in it. Function unknown. I love the confident prediction of the penny though. Worked out well for me. Okay. It's getting a bit warm. I could keep going, but I'd rather leave it till I brought Colleen back in so she can share in the bounty. 4 coins, you don't want to get too greedy, eh? Which they reflected the affluent period of this area, which is, you know, post-war. We got that one 1929 penny, which was lovely. 1 year off the big money. So this is a really interesting site. Will never be detected out. It's always going to be different every time we come back because of the grass situation. Next week the cows will wander through here and squash another spot, or the roos will lay down somewhere and I can get closer to the ground. I'll bring a bigger coil because the little coil wasn't useful everywhere here, just in the barer patches, and I couldn't really sneak under some of those grass clumps. I need a big coil to hover, and because I can't get to the soil. Anyway, we did it right in there, I reckon. So what I'm going to do now is, to round out the video, we'll go for a bit of a drive in this valley along this dirt road. If you want to come along with me, come now. If not, you can. I'd like if you leave a comment in the video and see what you think of a little adventure out here today. Otherwise, we'll go for a drive together. Thanks for watching. Right, I've just pulled over here. Up in here to my right is another old school site. There's a couple of big figs and a mango in there, and a bit of a benched area where the old schoolhouse was. I'm further up the valley now on the gravel road. I don't know who owns that. I'll determine that and seek to get permission to detect it, because it's another pretty spot on the hillside. I'm probably about 10k from that last one. No, it might be more, 15k. I don't know, 10 miles, 8 miles in the old money. But that was another one or two room school. I don't know if there's a residence there. I haven't actually checked that one in aerial photographs, but I know there was a school there. And there's another 2 further up the valley, so maybe a future video in there. Like, it's getting permission's not so much the deal as finding who actually owns it and who to ask to get permission. Oh, well, it's part of the it's another aspect of the hobby we all love. There's lots of facets to the hobby of metal detecting. So anyway, you might see us on a future video on that site. Let's keep going. Grass after the rain. Jeez, it needs a good slash along the side. I think I turn left here. Could be right. I'll consult the GPS if I get pushed. It's left we go.